Pre-ordering video games is a touchy topic in the community. In general, it is agreed that pre-ordering games these days is a bad idea because no matter how reputable the game's developer is, there is no guarantee that a game will launch without any performance issues or will actually be enjoyable to play. The opposing argument for this is simply, it's my money and I will do what I want with it. In this episode, let's look at why pre-orders are a thing in the first place and what are the pros and cons of pre-ordering video games. First, why exactly do publishers ask players to pre-order games? It's an old business practice that doesn't really make a lot of sense today. Before the 2010s, buying games digitally wasn't that common. The popular way to buy games was on a disc, even for PC games. And since there is a limit to the number of discs that can be sent to retailers in a single shipment, pre-ordering games was the only way to ensure that you actually got to play the game on day one without the risk of retailers running out of stock. Of course, this only applied to AAA games that were more or less guaranteed to sell well on the first day. For smaller games, you could always buy the game whenever you want after seeing the review scores. But once the industry moved to digital purchases, there was no real need to pre-order games. Today, we are at a point where even the biggest game launches will never run out of physical discs to sell because the majority of people are buying their games digitally. And since sales inevitably slow down once the review scores are out, publishers needed a way to motivate people into pre-ordering games, thus guaranteeing the publisher of a strong day one sales record. Think of this in terms of movies. Assume that there's a blockbuster movie that you are excited to watch and you find out that the tickets are on sale a whole month before the movie comes out. You are eager to watch this on day one, so you try your best to get tickets. If you're lucky, you get tickets for the first show of the first day. Awesome, right? As the release date approaches, the producers keep releasing short trailers that get you even more excited about the movie. Then, just one day before the movie comes out, the critics release their reviews. The movie is terrible. It's unbearable to watch. You are devastated. You now have tickets to a movie that has received horrible review scores. What do? You either try to sell them off to someone who still wants to watch it, or you end up watching it yourself anyway, reminding yourself of why you are excited to see it in the first place. Either way, the producers have already made money off of your advance purchase. It's the same thing in the video game market. Since publishers are taking a huge risk in financing the game, they don't want to leave it to chance on whether or not the audience will like the game. They want to capitalize on the day one sales and recover as much of their investment as possible because they know that once the review scores are out, a section of the audience will decide not to buy the game on day one. That's why they try to get in as many pre-orders as possible by offering various perks and benefits if you pre-order the game. Depending on which platform you buy the game on and in which country you live in, you are charged for your pre-order at different times. Sometimes it is a few days before the launch date, and sometimes you are charged as soon as you pre-order the game. In both cases, the publisher gets the money from the sale much before the actual launch of the game. Once the reviews are out, some players may try to refund the game, sure, but most people do not bother going back and refunding the game, either because they still want to stick to it or because they have so much disposable income that they simply don't feel like putting in the effort to ask for a refund. In both cases, after the launch window is over, the publisher will walk away with a bundle of money that they would not have earned if the entire pre-order cycle was not an option. Think about games like Anthem, Fallout 76, and Cyberpunk 2077. All three games had disastrous launches. But since they all sold millions of copies in their launch window, the publishers made a lot of money even if the critical reception at launch was bad for all these games. Anthem soon fizzled out, but Fallout 76 and Cyberpunk 2077 eventually got better, something which might not have been possible had it not been for that infusion of cash on the launch day. All this is to say that the concept of pre-ordering games is not going away anytime soon. It doesn't matter whether you feel the concept is good or bad. The market as a whole is simply not going to change its habits overnight. That doesn't mean we still can't debate on whether the concept is good or bad. And I feel the answer is not simple enough to cover all cases. I usually make my game purchases after a lot of research, so if I pre-order a game, I am absolutely certain that the game has enough value to offer on day one, whether in the form of an entertaining story or if I simply want to support the sales of single-player narrative games, which are a dying breed today. If the developer is an unproven studio, I am definitely more careful about my purchase and would rather wait for reviews than pre-order immediately. What I try my best not to do is falling for the FOMO tactics of the publishers. Getting early access to the game is a popular pre-order incentive offered these days, even though it is extremely shady. The publisher sets a release date for the game and then intentionally sets an earlier release date for people who have pre-ordered the game or those who have purchased a more expensive edition of the game. We have seen this in recent releases like Starfield, Forza Motorsport, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And guess what? All three games didn't exactly have smooth launches. Yes, they all went on to sell millions of copies, but the launch window either had performance issues or in the case of Call of Duty, the campaign was just plain bad. By offering early access as an incentive, they managed to make a neat bundle of money well before the actual release of the games. Another old pre-order incentive is offering extra in-game items. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 did this recently with the addition of several suits for both Spider-Man in the game. None of them altered the gameplay too much, but it once again gives people the fear of missing out. Oh no, if I don't pre-order the game, I will miss out on these suits for my collection. Spider-Man 2 is a good game, but this kind of marketing tactic is a bit disappointing. I am definitely leaning towards pre-orders being bad overall for the industry. There are rare cases where they can help smaller studios get into the spotlight on day one, but there are other ways of doing that. I wouldn't mind pre-orders as long as they don't offer an inferior experience to those who chose not to pre-order. Don't use early access to manipulate people into paying more money, just let everyone play on the same day. Don't separate those silly skins that everyone will forget about in a month anyway. Just let everyone have them whenever they buy the game. If I actually see an honest advertisement saying, pre-order our game, it doesn't give you any additional benefit, it only helps in keeping our company's financials healthy and allows us to invest in more games that you like, then I might actually consider pre-ordering more games. But of course, that's not the way the world works. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.